Chicago. The Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Good morning, good day, good afternoon. Hello, Chicago and the rest of the world. It is nice to be with you on, post the B-2 flyover of the White House. Apparently no accidental droppage occurred, so we still have a dysfunctional government, as we were all hoping we would. Welcome to the show. Infotainmentwars.com, of course, is the website where you can join the chat room. And, of course, if you're listening on the radio and you're a fan of the Chicagoland area, we will be at Max and Benny's next week at this very time doing a live version of the show.
I'm going to get a cookie.
Yes, you are. I wanted one of the cookie jars that they had in there. They had one, I think it looked like
right. They had a Spider-Man.
Yeah, they had the Green Goblin one that looked like the front of the truck in Maximum Overdrive. And I was like, how much are those? And they're like, they're not for sale. And I'm like, of course.
For real? They wouldn't sell you one of those?
No, it's their collection. That's the part of the thing, which I respect. That's fine. I'm just disappointed is all. I'm just very, very disappointed.
But it was really neat the last time we were there.
It was very neat, and it was a lot of fun. And I believe we may be joined. Well, I'm not going to commit anybody without a full confirmation from their side, but I think our dear friend Richard Chu is going to be there. Our friend Natalie Ziemba from the democratic world of politics in general, in the sort of city council zone of the tier. That's the word I was looking for? The tier, the city council tier. Tier. Nazi. And then, and then some other surprises. Maybe the Crooks and Liars folks. There's a possibility. I don't know if they were calling in or going to be there. It's we will figure it out. But very exciting nonetheless. Great corned beef sandwiches there, very good breakfast, all that kind of stuff. But a very brunchy environment. I'm just saying, it'll be very exciting. Brunchy. It's just lovely to be in Chicago. It just is. Kids, I gotta say, I gotta do a play in Chicago that gives me an excuse to hang out for a good long stretch. You know what I mean?
Oh, that'd be fun.
Or I'd be great on Chicago Med as a perpetual patient. A gadfly patient.
He's back again. He swallowed another Lego.
That's right. That's right. It's just, we're beginning to think you're doing this on purpose. Why? I just like you guys. And I'm a little lonely. The loneliest patient. That's my storyline.
And peckish.
And peckish, right. Well, peanut butter covers the taste of a lot of things. But the important story here, of course, is that Trump's copy of the Build Back Better bill, his big, beautiful bill, because he wanted to call it BBB, to have BBB passed, because the BBB bill that Biden passed was actually done by a bigger margin and was far more popular. He wants to eat up those kind of things. This is just, he can't. All these other victories, especially the Infrastructure Act, are going to dog Trump his entire presidency. And most people aren't bringing it up, I believe. All the good stuff that Biden was able to pass without having to go through reconciliation, where they were literally able to do a bipartisan Infrastructure Act. I think a lot of people don't bring that up to his face because they're afraid he will attack it just because. You know what I mean? Honest to God, I think there are a lot of things
just because.
I think a lot of people don't bring up after the ACA. The lesson about Donald Trump was he has no idea how any of this stuff works. That's not how it works. He has no idea how any of which departments do what stuff is covered. He doesn't know. He might even think that the Department of Transportation is part of the Department of Interior because it's interior of the country or something. It's that his thinking is like that. His brain,
the inside,
if you even call it works in those in fits and starts. And I honestly think that a lot of people around him, even reporters in the know, want to bring up the hypocrisy of what he's talking about. Want to bring up that, hey, you didn't pass the VA Choice Act. It was the VA Choice Act of 2014. Obama signed that into law. And a another Kentucky Republican, which seems to be the bane of his existence these days, presented it. It was a bipartisan effort by everybody. It was widely accepted. It was not 55 years they've been trying to do it or any of that stuff. And nowhere close to that. So, but a lot of people are like, if we bring it up that Obama signed it, he'll probably wreck it for spite. So let's just tiptoe around. And that has been the case, by the way. And, with the exception, I would say, is some of the investments made in the infrastructure or the Recovery Act about green energy. Obviously, they attacked those in this most recent bill. In the House version of the bill, they stripped everything out. In the Senate version of the bill, they put half of it back, largely because they are aware, even if their Republican, congressional cohorts don't realize it, that those green energy jobs are, by and large, the job expansion that has occurred in red districts since then. Bloomberg has an article this morning about how tearing these things out is going to throw a monkey wrench in the plans that these states, red states and purple states, had for their budget, where they're like, oh, okay, in a few years we'll be able to do this because we've got X number of jobs, this amount of growth, so we can count on that because of these investments that are coming in. Well, 9 to 12% of those things were immediately jettisoned in this bill, and most of it's the stuff that hasn't started yet. If you got on your feet immediately when the Infrastructure Act and the Recovery Act were signed into law, and you were shovel ready at the time, you're already over the hump. You might be able to survive without many of the subsidies that they expect. But if this was your second tier or third tier expansion or another property, forget it. It's dead in the water. There's a giant abandoned factory that was going to be for EV batteries and solar panels outside of Phoenix, Arizona. It is just empty. Around it had sprung up movie theaters and all kinds of stuff. Now there's no customer base because the expected workers that were going to come to this factory are no longer coming. So this was there are a couple of elements of this bill where the Republicans fixed it under the radar. So it was almost like Democrats had to complain about this bill even louder as the Senate put back some of the green stuff, took out some of the Medicaid cuts, made it a little more palatable. They had to scream just as loud. Otherwise, Trump would think something was up. Like if a single Democrat, as much as he decried, no Democrats voted for this. If a single Democrat had, he would immediately become suspect. And the Steve Bannons of the world would go, whoa. Why is one Democrat voting for this? Even if Murkowski and Collins went the other way. If a single Democrat signed on to it, they go, I swear to God, one of the tactics, and it never would have survived the kind of media cycle, one of the tactics that could have stopped this bill in the House is 10 Democratic senators signing on to it. For real. It wouldn't have made the bill better, but they would have become so suspect. And the speed of the bill, having not been able to pass, it with any kind of wide margin, the margin of it would have made all the paranoid Freedom Caucasians freak out about it. Like, wait a minute, why is Schiff signing on to this, right? The irony. And in many ways, compared to the House, if in a world of compromise, you would, if you trusted the president to implement some of these things, well or with any forethought. But the problem we have is that, well, let's look at something that Biden passed, the Chips and Science Act, which was obviously successful, is responsible directly for the 9 chip fabs that are being built in Arizona currently, and the 2 other ones on the East Coast. I believe they're putting one in. There may even be one in Ohio, as they're looking to build one that will be protected from, you don't want to put them all in the same area, and otherwise you end up with something like the Texas floods happening, which is just a horrifying thing. I don't know if you've heard about that, Johnny Million, but there were a river in Texas flooded. It took something like a half an hour for it to surge 20 feet, 25 feet. There are 20 girls from a girls' camp that are missing. There are 24 known dead. And this is right about the time the Republicans are saying, we don't need FEMA. States are on their own. And climate change is hooey. And, the weather changes all the time. Somebody just said in the chat room, I heard it's up to 40 dead now. I don't know how many they have confirmed. The last confirmed number I saw was 20. But it is brutal. And it happened incredibly fast. These are the things where you need to invest if you value life. You need to invest in preventative measures. And one of the areas, and we're going to talk about it after the break, where you could see in advance, where you go, there are still gains to be made in science and development and technology and even, a company could fill a gap in the, and create products that could save lives, because we have yet to solve this kind of flash floods, flash tornado tracking, earthquakes, those kind of things, knowing when they're coming, being able to retrofit against them, those kind of things. We're still not good at that yet, especially in the areas where it happens the most, namely red states. And this is the place where Trump wants to choke off these folks. Now, remember, last time around, there was a 2-year window.
Isn't a whole bunch of storm tracking programs cut?
Cut, yes, exactly. And last year, there was a 2-year FA to FO turnaround. If you'll recall, Trump came in his first term, and he said he didn't like anything Obama did, so anything that had Obama's name on it or was a signature issue, or that anybody flagged from the Republican side that he should get rid of because it was an Obama thing, he scuttled. And two of the things he did almost immediately were the pandemic response team and the COPS program. The COPS program was a system that the Obama administration had set up to help local and state police agencies get rid of bad cops that could, so that there wouldn't be this kind of circle the wagons around bad cops and make it nearly impossible for them to lose their job. Or if they did lose their job for being terrible, they could just go to another state and their record wouldn't follow them. There was all those kind of things. And the Obama administration...
Are you a Catholic priest?
Right, exactly. And Joe Biden specifically worked on this program, put it into place. And Trump, because it had their name on it, scuttled it when he came in. Took him about a year, but he scuttled it. 2 years almost to the day from when he scuttled it, which was, I think, June of 2018. Round comes 2020, and we get George Floyd, with Derek Chauvin, probably would have been broomed under that rule a year or two before. And think if that had never happened. Think if the COPS program had had time to work, and people like that lost their job, and people were more aware of their behavior following them as police officers. They couldn't just move and get the same job. What that would have meant to just lives saved, and the change in attitude and the safety of police officers, all that kind of stuff, right? The reason it was put up in the first place. He scuttled it. And the same time he scuttled the pandemic response team, and we all know that luckily that never happened. Luckily, COVID went away with the sunshine. But almost to the day, 2 years to the day. Now the turnaround is less than a year, even at the outside, with the stuff that's in this bill that they're cutting. And there isn't all Musk Trump war, which we will get into aside. They are going to be all moving in the same direction. They have decided, in for a penny, in for a pound. These guys have decided they are going to back this bill, even if they hated it, even if they're lying to themselves and their constituents, because they're hoping that something else that's more awful will happen between now and the faux part of this bill, and people will blame something else. There are so many people in the House that are hoping that the Dems take over the House. Obviously, they don't want to lose their seat, but they want other people in purple districts to lose their seat so that the Dems can take over, so that when these things start happening, the Dems won't have the votes to undo it, and the damage will be coming, and they will blame Democrats for it. it will be our responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million.
That's me.
Yeah. Flash flood in Kerrville, Texas. Some of the dead were children, 24 fatalities. The 20 girls are missing from a summer camp God, that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
500 personnel, 14 helicopters helping search for survivors. Camp Mystic Christian Summer Camp. They were among the roughly 750 kids there. I went to a Christian summer camp in Kentucky.
Nice.
2 years in a row when I was a kid, and there was this big trench in the middle of it. Like there was the camp part, and then there was these like places where they had tents. It was like on this person's property, and then there was this big, basically
30 seconds, guys.
Thank you. Squared out ditch that went through the whole thing, and we would always walk through it. It was a water diversion thing for flooding that after the 1976, 78 floods. That in that area they had them really bad, so it needed to fill up with water, and we used to just wander through it. That thing could have filled up in 15 minutes on a hard rain, and we were all just like la-di-da.
We're gonna live forever.
Mm-hmm. And if we don't, we'll live with our Lord Jesus, in the other version.
Jesus.
Welcome back to the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Okay, Johnny Million, this is going to be quick, but I want to clear something up. Now, Donald Trump, for the record, has not gotten smarter since he got reelected, and his ideas have not gotten better. And there seems to be either a haunting suspicion or a fear or a concern that might have actually happened. And I'm here to tell you it has not. That his idea of effectively replacing income tax with tariffs is not going to work in the modern world. Not going to happen. Not at all. And it's absurd to assume so. And the irony is that insofar as taxing, the reason they had to do this giant tax cut along with this other stuff that they're doing, because that's the plan. I would like everybody to know, forget like just 5%, 7% giving his buddies a tax cut. It's not that. They're trying to collapse the income tax system so they can do it based on tariffs because they want to go back to the robber baron financial situation over there. And then they, effectively all the stuff that rich people buy from overseas, you can buy an airplane and land it. You don't pay a tariff on it because it's your plane. You just change where it's located. Same thing with like yachts. You just don't, you can park it in the water, and you have Peter Thiel, effectively talking about and having bought oil rigs, turning them into countries legally, so you could everybody can park their stuff there, have their little eyes wide shut parties, and then helicopter to the mainland in San Francisco or something like that. And or to their uber rich person city that they want to build. So, and everybody's like, ICE will be funded during this thing. There was the biggest article I've seen about the ICE funding in this is how are they going to spend it? Because it's unnecessary. One of the big lies that Donald Trump told was that 21 million people, he even said it yesterday during the 4th of July thing, which is nothing more patriotic than crapping all over former presidents and your predecessors and the other party and half of Americans or whatever. It's just silly. It's something Biden never did. Nobody does it on 4th of July except Donald Trump because his brain is turning to baby food, and okay. We have talked many times about how it is abundantly obvious to everyone that the Hannibal Lecter thing that he kept saying everywhere was about that he thinks people seeking asylum in the United States come from insane asylums. So never mind the difference between those words and the multiple uses functions of it, but think for a second how stupid you would have to be to believe that someone who's insane breaks out of an asylum and seeks another one like it's home, like they're a rewards member at Hilton, where they have to stay there or they won't get points. You know what I mean? Like, think how shockingly dumb that is. Okay, yes, he's really that dumb. And no one brings it up to him because half the people are afraid he will repeat that back to them and they'll go, "Dear God, I work for the stupidest person this side of J.D. Vance." And the rest of them are afraid that he will wake up to the fact that he's been called out as stupid and start attacking asylum seekers because he'll go, because he doesn't often defend himself by going, "Somebody else told me there was a mistake. I didn't mean to say it." He doubles down on it. No, they really are. Everybody who's seeking asylum here is insane, right? Now look, with Donald Trump as president, maybe you have a case. Maybe you'd have to be insane to seek asylum here while Donald Trump is president. But not that kind of insane, right? Not the Hannibal Lecter kind. All right. The other thing that he does, and this is pretty consistent, is he keeps saying transgender for everyone, right? That's one of his things. The Democrats want open borders, which, by the way, is from a phrase that Hillary Clinton used in talking about migrant workers being able to go back and forth so they could live in Mexico, come into the States, work, and go back home so they could, we'd have a real porous system for them in particular, for workers, so that you'd have a real system in place where they wouldn't have to live here and work under, they wouldn't lose their job if they went back. You'd have a system set up in place so they could go home. They could, come in for a period of time and then, live in Mexico or wherever they're from. And you could set up a real, a genuine immigration system that would respect and acknowledge that that's a huge part of the workforce. So one of the guys behind J.D. Vance, and why J.D. Vance was literally assigned to Trump, in the same way that Dick Cheney was assigned to George W. Bush, in the same way, in many ways, that George H.W. Bush was assigned to Ronald Reagan by the party structure. So, by the way, for all the uniparty, the establishment, blah, 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 that's going on, the choice of running mate on the Democratic side has always been that of the candidate. There is not a single situation where they were forced to take on somebody by the party apparatus on the Democratic side. For real. There just isn't. You could think that maybe they're in a cahoots or they would naturally choose each other, whatever. Tell yourself whatever you want. But the Republicans have a long and storied history of going, okay, if you're going to be the president, you have to take this dude. Or in the case of John McCain, which wrecked his presidential hopes and his legacy in many ways, you have to take Sarah Palin because we are competing against the black guy and he's really great. We got to if we throw a woman in there, we can distract the.
That'll do the trick.
Yeah. We don't care if she's stupid, right? But they made him. They crowbarred that, and made him choose her, and then they assigned everybody else to the other people. All right. There is, so Peter Thiel assigned J.D. Vance to Donald Trump. And this is when the money flood started. Not just from Thiel and his friends, but from Elon Musk. All the talk about Elon Musk after the shooting at Butler becoming a supporter is apocryphal, ahistoric nonsense. The decision had already been made once they would be able to assign a technocrat to his second position so that they could make sure that, they are on the cutting edge of the technological wave and all that stuff. Okay. So Trump started saying this thing. I think I might have to wait until the other side of the break to play this whole clip at this point. But Trump started saying this transgender for everyone thing when dealing with 0.05% of the population and the rights and privileges as citizens that should be afforded them, considering their lot in life and their and their concerns, and like the asylum thing, everybody, even supporters, did that sort of like RCA dog cocked head thing every time he said it, because you're like, what is trans? Now, most of them, if they're being charitable, I think, assumed that what he meant was they're forcing everyone to accept transgenderism, not transgender people, but this ideology that goes along with it, that there is no such thing, that basically non-binaryism is what they really were talking about. When they say transgenderism, they mean non-binaryism, that there is no gender binary, that sex has, and secondary sex characteristics have no meaning whatsoever, and we need to break it all down like a CIA experiment to see if we can rebuild, a person by destroying their brain and then turning them into a super assassin. This has been part of...
I saw the Winter Soldier.
That's right. This has been a part of psychological mythology since the 50s because of a fear that the Soviets were doing it. And it doesn't work. I think the phrase is, people are people, so why should it be? Right. You and I should get along so awfully. Bong, bong, bong. Now, after the break, I would like to play for you exactly why Donald Trump thinks transgenderism for everybody is a transgender for everybody is a thing. Because, well, you'll go, oh, I can see why he'd be confused because he's already stupid plus this. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Mm-hmm.
He's already stupid.
Oh, my God. That, when I went to that Christian camp I went to, that little divot thing we walked into, that ditch we would walk into, it's hard to explain because it literally was like, it looked like it was ground out by giant machinery because it was square walls and a flat floor. It was kind of well done, but it was, bricked off over time so they could make this
25 seconds.
Thank you. This one guy was just throwing rocks into it, and this girl was walking through there, and one of these rocks just went and stuck right in her forehead like a frisbee. And just whack and stuck. That it just stayed. It looked like this UFO crashed into the side of a mountain.
That's not what rocks are supposed to do.
You're locked into the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
All right, I'm going to play a piece of audio for you right now. This is Russ Duhat, I think his name is, from the New York Times, interviews Peter Thiel. And he starts the interview off going, do you think the human race should survive? Should endure, he says. And Peter Thiel's answer is, which is not safe from a pro-life standpoint, Republicans, not exactly the response you want to get is a long dragged out But he starts talking after his hemming and hawing. Well, here it is.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in this.
Should the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But
yes, but right, yeah. Okay. So let me just start there. This is the guy who picked J.D. Vance, hillbilly elegy, Christo-fascist adjacent dweeb, to be vice president so that they can create this technocracy where the basically AI is running the show, and we all just are assigned based on this hierarchical belief system these guys have, that the smart are worthwhile and the stupid are not, and we're going to eliminate all the stupid jobs and with it all the stupid people. And now we get to, what does he mean by humans should survive? Now I'll tell you why he hedged. The reason he hedged was, are you still human if you're 80% robot? And that's where his brain went. right? That's what he's thinking. That if you replace almost all of you at what point? I'm a big fan of Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell, two of my favorite movies. Ghost in the Shell is my favorite manga movie and anime movie, and my favorite film is Blade Runner. And both of those explore like how far can you become artificial before you no longer have a soul and stuff like that. So that's where he thinks he's waxing poetic about this. Still not reassuring because there's a huge thread of eugenics in here. Now we get to why Donald Trump thinks transhumanism is transgender for everybody.
I also would I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so, it's always, I don't know.
Here it comes.
Transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or I don't know, transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses.
Oh, by the way, I would like to remind everybody, don't get offended by his slapdash explanations of things or you'll miss the rest of how awful his answer is. You can get so caught up in him just screwing up the language that you might miss the fact that he's about to be even worse.
And a transsexual is someone where you change your penis into a vagina, and we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body. And then Orthodox Christianity by
oh yeah, wait. Check this out. And then he says, and then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, listen to this.
And change your whole body. And then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of this is these things don't go far enough. Like that transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform your soul and you need to transform your whole self. And so,
right. But the other, wait. Sorry.
Yeah. So, okay. After hearing that answer, you can understand why Donald Trump, who doesn't sit for his daily briefs, doesn't read anything, hears chit chat around him and picks like rotten low-hanging fruit off the trees of conversations all around him, things to, seed dumb ideas. You can see why that's the conversation. That's how the smartest, richest people around him are describing this. Okay? And he is doing it from a position of, as a billionaire, gay, Orthodox Christian, which is, make of that what you will, is throwing, is throwing this, it does not add up, by the way. It's a very curious thing. Is that conversation, just as it was had there, and this kind of slapdash, like, let's break this down to first principles and start throwing, logs on the fire of this idea, see where it burns. That was the only that was the only radio friendly analogy I could come up with quickly. Because but there, you can understand how him saying this and talking to, Musk when he was around the White House a lot, Thiel was at the White House a lot, talking to JD Vance, how JD Vance absolutely buys in on this. Just saying. They all are in on, they believe this, that they're all transhumanists, right? And that, and to some degree, like, I don't know, if we could 3D print kidneys from your own cells or those kind of things, is that transhumanism, or is that just a new way of replacing of organ donor? You could donate your own organs, right? I wouldn't call that transhumanism. What they would consider transhumanism is whatever we have as a heart gets replaced by a device that's nuclear powered and works forever, right? And then everything else about you doesn't. Yes, exactly. In every aspect, from your brain, or maybe even just uploading your mind to this computer, and like the dude in Winter Soldier, who But understand
the scary scientist for the Red Skull.
The guy, the vegetarian Nazi who was meat does not agree with me.
And he was Swiss, not German.
Right. But this guy, like Peter Thiel,
it the other day.
It's so good. Peter Thiel is again one of the guys around him pulling the strings, and I show you this. Heinrich Zola. Yeah. The reason I wanted to share that piece with you is not that Peter Thiel's transhumanism plan is going to come into effect anytime soon. And believe me, they're going to work very hard to make every possible part of it happen. That's the focus of their life. I've done shows for the Sens Foundation, which is the people working on the 1,000-year lifespan. I've done comedy for them about what it would be like to be 1,000 years old. And, I did bits, it's written about the discoveries they made each year at their gathering. So I know where these guys are like aiming. But it's indicative of every other thing that Trump is talking about. Understand that hearing what Peter Thiel just said and the mishmash of ideology and pseudoscience and bigotry that just kind of flops around in Peter Thiel's conversations, and Trump's sort of digesting of that and turning it into little bits of policy here and there, is happening everywhere. It is why he has Howard Lutnick and Navarro and idiots like that around him making policy around these things, because over the years he's heard little bits of stuff about tariffs in the 1800s and the robber barons, and we used to be able to live this, and we didn't have to pay taxes, and these people couldn't live off us. That's the New York elite talks like that all the time. The Wall Street elite talks like that all the time. We didn't have to pay income tax, and these idiots had to pay for it, whatever garbage they want to fill their body with or buy for their home. If they had to pay a tax on it at the point of purchase, and it wasn't on our backs, oh man, how rich we would be, right? You have to understand that's the area Trump, was in his entire business life, even around his father. That's how those people talk. And what he gets from it is, because he doesn't study, he doesn't read, and he doesn't know how anything works, he gets little bits of it from here and actually thinks, well, you just throw a lever and we go back to what it was when things were awesome back then. We're going to make America great again. That's what it was. That's where this comes from. That his inability to digest complex ideas, but his ability to regurgitate simplistic, overly simplistic blather at his followers, which comes across as populism when it absolutely is not, but it works as red meat for the populists on the left and the right.
No.
Right? All he has to do is act like he's for the working man, and that's enough. They'll buy it. And to get back to the system where you don't have to worry about the working man, where you don't have to, deal with those poor people. You can stiff arm them. You can keep them out of your golf course if they're Jewish or black or whatever. You can get back to that time.
Okay.
All you got to do to get to that point is pretend to care. I mean, there are a myriad of examples of how that system works. And Johnny, you, as you often do, brought up like the Catholic priest idea. The way you get access to victims.
I often do.
Yes. The way you get access to victims is to pretend you would never victimize anyone, and we are all innocent lambs in the Lord. And not only am I not going to, sexually assault anyone, I'm never going to have sex in my whole life. A vow of chastity, of abstinence, right? That's how you lie if you want to victimize people to that depth. And so Trump's entire populist monster truck flag waving story that he sells to the working class and to the middle class, it has a specific purpose. And that is to get back to, with the aid of his billionaire backers like Peter Thiel, a robber baron economic system where they don't have to participate in America. They can benefit from it. They can make fortunes off of it, but not participate in the constitutional rights that it guarantees. That's the intrinsic difference. And that, by the way, my friends, is why in all this, people selling this, I don't know, the uniparty concept, that it's all the same, which is just a lazy way of tapping out. And most of the time it's a way, anytime somebody starts decrying the uniparty, it's because they voted for the awful that's happening and they want to pretend they didn't. They want to pretend I voted for the other stuff, but it's happening anyways because quote unquote uniparty. Nope. No Democrats voted for this bill in the House or the Senate. Even the ones that people were like whinging about for a couple weeks. Not a one. There is a difference. And it does matter who runs things. But if you can be talked into thinking it doesn't matter or it won't change things, then you'll just let whoever in. And all they have to do is sing the right song and in they go. And everything that like even, people like Young Turks and others decry about the Democratic establishment and the DNC and the control, whatever, blah, will let anybody in if they just say the right words. They're doing that. They're actually implementing that. But even still, in the Democratic Party, there's a broad base. It's one of the reasons why it takes us longer to message something, why it takes us longer to put a bill together, and why our bills are so huge, even for simple programs, because we recognize there are loopholes, there are ways that people can cheat and steal and find a way to wiggle through these things. So you have to think of that. You got to think ahead. You got to go, okay, if I was a bad person, I could see this and go, there's a question about what is means in paragraph 3. We got to tamp down what is means, that it's a permanent state, not a temporary state, and therefore you can't just phase through, get a tax break, and phase out of it. It's about a certain economic strata. You can't, if you were blue collar when you were a kid, but now you're a billionaire, you can't keep that same tax break because is means something else, right? You got to do that. You have to write that in. That's why the bills have to be full of language to do this, because somebody is going to cheat. There is no uniparty. There is a difference between Democrats and Republicans, and specifically it is that Republicans, like Peter Thiel and his ilk, believe that we should be a landowner-based society, that taxes should be paid by the citizenry that don't contribute in their mind, that are just the workers, and that the lords of the land should set the rules for everyone else. That's the root of the Republican Party. That is why they are about the Electoral College. That's what their focus always is, the Senate. That's why there's 2 per state, even if a state has fewer people than Toledo, Ohio. That's why they have a head start when it comes to the Senate every single time. That's why we're ice skating uphill. And in Democrats, it's very easy. We're for democracy. We are a constitutional republic based on a federalist system where the governments of the states and the federal government have a balancing act that they have to do, but we choose our leaders through the will of the people. And that every citizen over the age of 18 years old who is not currently serving a felony or in prison or on probation for a felony past a certain point, whatever the rule is, has the right to choose, their leaders. That's the essence of this, and it is the essence that was written of in the Declaration of Independence. I read it on stream yesterday, and it is a fundamental difference between Democrats and Republicans. And we got to get back to that. We got to remind everyone that Democrats, our raison d'etre is every person, even if we don't like it, gets to have a say. If we lose a vote, we lose it fair and square, but at least everybody gets to vote. Republicans, look at the Paul Weyrichs of the world. They don't want everybody to vote. They've been against voting forever. As more people have the right to vote, their leverage goes down. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
And scene.
There you go. There we go.
I'm going to go grab a fizzy water. Do you want anything?
Yeah. So just some snacks.
I'll bring you back some snacks.
Thanks. Just throw them at the screen.
Some jerky.
What? Oh.
You heard me.
We ain't got time for that shit. Hush puppies. Give me a Diablo sandwich and a Dr. Pepper. I'm in a goddamn hurry. And I got
back in 60.
Thank you. Johnny thinks he's got a lot more time. Let's see. Gotta take this down. Dink. There we go. Here. Go back to there. We're almost back.
30 seconds.
Absolutely.
Stand by.
Excellent. John is back. Guess who's back?
Guess what I'm doing tonight?
I'm afraid.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I'm afraid to ask Johnny Million, what indeed are you doing this evening?
I'm seeing King's X front row.
Oh, man. Oh, that's amazing. Well, tell him I said hi and give him a hug for me. You must. We cannot. It is impossible to quantify how much we adore those guys. And thank you, by the way, Hal Vickery and Jenny Faye Muppet. Thank you so much. One of the last great concerts happening today. Ozzy's last performance solo with Black Sabbath and Metallica is happening today. Absolutely. I always have hope for stem cell stuff that, there's going to be a rejuvenating thing in the next 3 years, and it's going to be the weirdest thing ever when all of our favorites start getting young again, and you're like, hey, I feel this good since I was 40, and then they get it, they start writing songs because they feel like a teenager again. So I want to be clear for everybody too, is that Peter Thiel quote that I played about transhumanism basically being transgender plus in his mind, or an example of it doesn't go far enough or what have you. Maggots are freaking out about that. And they're not unaware that he pulls J.D. Vance's strings, right? They're very aware of this connection. They just chose, like they did with Elon Musk, to look the other way. They chose to just go, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or specifically, I think maybe I'm just hearing him wrong. Whatever story they can talk themselves into is enough. Right? Just to get them over the line. It doesn't matter because it's about winning. That's one of the reasons why, the whole you're going to be tired of winning. We're going to be winning again. Winning is a big part of the conversation. Even though, again, in a political contest, nobody wins. You get a job. And that job is difficult to do. And your test of doing that job happens daily. It's like saying, if you get hired as a fireman or a police officer and they're like, hey, you want a job as a policeman or a fireman? Cool, what do I get? You get to go out tonight and go into a domestic violence dispute between a guy who has a gun and a wife who has a knife, and both of them are high on meth, right? Oh, don't you feel like a winner? Like that's the idea that you get a job in government, you have to keep showing up. The winning or the losing happens daily, and it's your responsibility. Now, so Elon Musk, Peter Thiel's, first techno cousin. Musk has been in a bit of a row with Trump, and Trump wants to write it off as that it has everything to do with the EV mandate, and makes it personal about that. Now, will his company lose billions because of that? Very possibly, but they can also sell those systems to Europe and China, and Trump is trying to open those markets up for U.S. manufacturers. So if he even got a piece of that, it would make up for whatever he would lose in those situations. So the idea that the EV mandate or any of the subsidies necessarily will be a death blow to Tesla or any of the EV companies necessarily is ridiculous. What Musk, and by the way, Musk has said all along, it wasn't really about that. He was like, okay, cut my subsidies and all oil and gas subsidies, which is what Drill Baby Drill is, by the way. Drill Baby Drill is subsidies and tax breaks for oil and gas exploration. That's what it is. Free or abundant leases and a tax break on exploratory drilling, so that if it doesn't cost you anything if you don't come up with anything, and if you do, you still get the break. So the essence of Elon Musk and his argument with Trump is not about the EV thing. Allegedly, it's about the debt. We're accumulating too much debt. And this is what he sold to everybody. It's also what he helped sell to everybody. If we don't solve this debt issue, our country is over, right? That was the idea. And Doge is going to come in, and it's going to get rid of all the waste and the fraud and the abuse, and the waste and the fraud and the fraud and the fraud and the more of the fraud. And the fraud is somewhere else. It's not in the White House. It's the fraud. We use fraud to describe everything outside the White House because it draws attention to the fact that everybody called Trump a fraud, and he was found to be a fraud legally in court. So fraudy, fraud. This is what they're, what Trump wants to go after. But they were starting $2 trillion, then $1 trillion, then $500 billion, then $160 billion, and off he goes. And then when this big BS bill, this budget busting bill gets signed through, it not only doesn't cut spending in any meaningful way, it raises the debt ceiling $5 trillion over the next 2 years, giving him $2.5 trillion worth of play money to add on to stuff. And it allows him, as every single program that exists, to maintain the Biden spending and go further. So let's do some of the Doge math. In that, the story has been that that spending is going to be up $240 billion this year over last year. That Trump in his first year so far is projected to spend $240 billion more than Biden spent last year. And that doesn't include what's in this bill. This was already coming.
Seems like a lot. That sounds like a lot.
Yes. Now, so what they've almost been taking this number, which sounds cute. I've always had this theory that even numbers sound cute and odd numbers sound harsh. Look at your age and how you feel about it. Like, you're 24, you got to have some fun. You're 24, you're 25 now. It's time to get a job. Like, what am I worried about? I'm 26. It's like, who cares about 27 years old? You better get married. It's going to happen. I'm 28. I'm rethinking myself. And then you get into the multiple, odd numbers like 29, 30, 31. That's why it's a rough patch for a lot of people, because that's 3 odd numbers in a row, right? So that like 240 billion somehow they can just kind of shake off. Well, if you believe the Doge nonsense, the story that they told, which is that they were able to cut 160 billion, and you're adding 240 on top of what was spent last year, that means you spent $400 billion. You didn't. Not only did they not cut, not only did they not adding just 240 billion, they apparently took the 160 that they were able to cut and get rid of from waste, fraud, and abuse, and either spend more elsewhere or move that money around. So there were no savings. So what I don't know how to put it, but maggots, you're not getting a Doge check, is what I'm saying. It's not coming. There's not going to be one. There's never going to be one. Even in your tax break, the cost of the stuff that you're going to be paying for because of tariffs is going to go up so much, it will eclipse whatever tax break you might have gotten. And that is the reality that's going to start, people are going to wake up to around tax day next year, especially. Heading into the midterms. That's the time schedule on this. There was a reason why the Biden administration was like, and why you kind of bum rush your big expenditures in the beginning, because a lot of them takes a while to get off the ground and for people to see the benefits. the opposite is true of the bill that the Republicans passed this week, in that they punted the bad stuff, the heightened debt, the cuts on Medicaid, as far as they could. They tried to push them out so that as soon as they passed it, you wouldn't see the damage done for at least a couple of years, so people wouldn't associate the bad stuff that was happening in their lives to these cuts. They're hoping that people just that's the shortness of their memory, or that something else will be awful enough to distract them. Which, again, because Trump is in charge, is entirely reasonable. The man started a war with Iran, and it ain't over. The alleged ceasefire that's supposedly going on between Israel and Iran, there are still nightly strikes in Iran. There are still, their missile defense systems are completely down, which is one of the reasons why they're not firing at Israel at the same time. But the Mossad operatives are still in the country. They're still trying to wipe out all the nuclear scientists. They're still trying to wipe out all the IRGC guys. They're still trying to find the Ayatollah and knock him off. Because why wouldn't you in this circumstance? The idea that those guys you'd allow them to come back like they're going to go, you know what, no harm, no foul, let's start over, is absurd. Considering,
it made me blow a snot bubble with that.
Yeah, well, I try. That's my goal. If I can, it's snort snot bubble. That's So we got to take a break. When we come back, our dear friend Philip Bittner will be joining us from Kyiv, and there's a lot going on there. But this inner fighting amongst Trump's sort of elite circle and this money that's in this bill, which, by the way, they still have to do a budget on some things. They still have to do this CR thing for other budgetary elements, because these are all just pet projects largely. They haven't, passed a huge budget for the year. So they're still going to have to go through that cycle. They just won't have to argue the debt ceiling. They think they're going to be able to pass a budget now on reconciliation. But the problem is those right-wingers that said, hey, you promised me we were going to cut funding, those guys are going to be back with a vengeance, because they have to help him pass his agenda, but his budget's another thing entirely. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Next week, we're at Max and Benny's in Northbrook.
Yeah, we are.
Johnny Milliot and a bunch of the cast of characters. Get your tickets now.
Hey!
Something to be afraid of. I'm just saying. It can happen to anybody. It could happen at any time, Johnny. Just saying. I have to check something to see if I can play it. I have to see if I can play it. I don't think he swears in this clip, but
Elmo the Mook, formerly known as Elon Musk, Elmo the Mook, he's today in another smear, and this only a foreigner could do this.
Foreigner.
Think about it. He's got up on Twitter right now a poll about starting an America party. A non-American starting an America party. No, brother, you're not an American. You're a South African. And if we take enough time and prove the facts of that, you should be deported because it's a crime of what you did, among many.
You hate to see it. But that's Steve Bannon talking about Elon Musk. And I would like to point out that I said during the election last year, when he pulled it through and our voters stayed home and handed it over to him, that I was like, at that moment, two trains left the station on the same piece of track headed towards each other, and nothing will divert them because these are irreconcilable sides. Thank you, Aaron West, for posting that in there. There's a link in the chat for tickets to our gathering at Max and Benny's. Let me see if I can.
Yay!
Get out of here. There you go. Yeah. So tall. There we go. Yeah. Bring this over here. Excellent. Hey, brown paper tickets. And it's an old picture of us Yeah.
I remember
it's,
brown paper tickets.
Yeah. $20, worth every cent. Goes to the station. I don't get anything. Just help us out. There you go. I even fly myself in for it because I'm that kind of guy. All right.
You are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I don't see Phil yet, but I hope he will be with us shortly. And then this, where is it?
And we've got reports from think tanks that indicate that if we utilize AI effectively, we can cut 10% off of the cost of providing healthcare to Americans. So what can HHS do to catalyze the adoption of AI and the...
There we go.
Back in 60.
Thank you. Phil's not with us yet. I'm going to check in. Have we heard from him?
Amandria?
I don't know. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
There's a dead bird out in the yard.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they run into our house.
Yeah, that happens here too. We're okay. I hope Phil's all right. He's coming? Okay, good. Right, we got it. Because I'll play this piece with RFK Jr. too. This AI part of it. Because this is all part of that technocracy thing.
Stand by.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're waiting on Phil. He'll be joining us in just...
We got stuck on an airplane on Monday night coming back from Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah?
And I didn't think I was going to watch a movie, but the delay was so long, I watched the Daffy and Porky Pig full-length movie. It's amazing. It's so good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing, Johnny May. No, I have not seen it. I'm just kidding. I'm
messing with Marvin Martian, and that was my segue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Absolutely.
The Illudium Q36 explosive space modulator.
Right. That will now be running your healthcare because I would like to play a little clip right now from an oversight committee hearing for HHS, for the House Energy Committee, where RFK Jr. is testifying. And I would like to, this goes out to all the granola Dems that allegedly thought, well, he's going to put RFK in charge of things, so therefore I'll vote for him because he's going to get fluoride out of the water and we'll all be, I don't know, we're all going to be going back to nature and smell like patchouli.
Patient care. And we've got reports from think tanks that indicate that if we utilize AI effectively, we can cut 10% off of the cost of providing healthcare to Americans. So what can HHS do to catalyze the adoption of AI and the securing of those benefits on the provider side?
We're doing that at every level of the department, and I'm surprised it's only 10%. It's just the waste, fraud, and abuse, and particularly the fraud. AI has the capacity to detect fraud now.
Yes, AI has the capacity to detect fraud now. I think that lady can walk, judging by her Google searches.
And we're using it in the department for that reason. We're using it for diagnostics. We're using it for paperwork. The agreement that I made yesterday with the pharmaceutical...
For paperwork? You mean people's medical records?
Companies should cut off much more than that from paperwork from doctors. And so we're using it everywhere that we can, and we hope to drive it into the healthcare system in this country at every level, including the providers.
So let me be abundantly clear here. What you just heard, besides the blather of someone who's just talking above his pay grade on a bunch of fronts, we are going to drive AI into every aspect of healthcare in the country. That is, for all you states' rights folks, for all you, they're going to leave it up to us and we'll be able to make our own medical decisions and yada, yada, yada. No. This is part and parcel to the technocratic push that Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are all for. RFK Jr. is a part of that. He has not had a break at all with Elon Musk. They are definitely on board with each other's plans. And that statement alone should I guess make people recognize that maybe, just maybe, they were suckered at it. I mean, the best case is that they were suckered by these folks into thinking that there was going to be sort of a more human approach to healthcare and the like, when in reality, they just don't think that a lot of people, we've been keeping a lot of people alive for too long that are just a burden. And that we are seeing the policy implementation of that moment when Donald Trump saw his his son-in-law's kid or his cousin's kid who was wheelchair bound and non-responsive and said, why don't you just let him go? You could buy for what you're spending keeping him alive, you could buy a nice condo in Florida. That is being turned into policy. Understand, that is what they're doing. That's what this is. The whole idea that, and what they did to sell it was, if you look at, people on the Democratic side, we've been worried about food additives for a very long time. We've been, we want clean air and clean water. We want a strong EPA. We want a lot of, certain pesticides removed and the like, right? That's something that appeals to most Democrats, I think. As a matter of fact, whatever they manage to implement in those terms under RFK Jr. is technically a win for Democrats because it actually happens. Thank you, Andrea. I will take those wins in the same way that they had to make the child tax credit $2,500. It's not the $3,500, which works best, but they codified it in the BBB this week, right? The reason that they did that is because it was very popular when Democrats did it, and they couldn't not.
Gotta love it.
So there were a lot of Democratic things implemented in this to win over moderate Republicans because they work, because they benefit actual people. Now, there's a lot of damage done in this. It's going to have to be undone. There's a lot of damage that's going to have to be headed off at the pass by state and local officials and by volunteer groups and that kind of stuff. We're going to have to take great care to catch people when they fall through the cracks in the system because they took a sledgehammer to the social safety net in a bunch of areas. But until we can remedy it on a national level, we can at least protect them on a state level as best we can. In red states, they're not going to bother. But in this particular instance, if when RFK when they issued this thing at HHS about removing certain color, artificial colors from foods that Europe doesn't have but we do, two things. Can we speak frankly about this? Number one, this was a capitulation on tariff talks with Europe. One of the reasons why
you were going to bring up Crystal Pepsi.
Just make it all food should be see-through. Yeah. Including the new Invisa Dorito is going to be amazing. Why am I gaining weight? But the mouthfeel is amazing. But in reality, let me explain something to you. All alleged care about food safety and the like, put that aside and understand that to be able to sell American foodstuffs, especially processed foodstuffs, in Europe, where the rules are much stricter, you've got to remove certain chemicals or they're not going to take it. They just won't. That you're going to run aground. And guess what? We're doing it. We, under the, and frame this how you want for all the maggots out there who think that Trump is winning in this regard. But we capitulated with the rules of Europe. European food buyers now set the standard for American foods under Donald Trump. For better or worse, and I would argue for better, but the irony is palpable. And it has nothing to do with some sort of understanding of working class needs and health and chronic disease or any of the sales pitch they threw him or Dr. Oz, which should prove to you, Dr. Phil hanging around with like Border Patrol agents and the like, that this is all sales all the time. This is Trump steaks policy, that there is no meat there. That isn't green. It's awful. It will fail, but they have to oversell it because they know it's a timeshare policy effectively. So if RFK Jr. changes the rules for what additives can end up in American foods, don't be lulled into a false sense of or any illusion that they care about the health and safety of Americans. This is so food sellers in the United States can break through a barrier selling into Europe that have existed for a long time that have a lot to do with the toxicity of processed foods. And the HHS rules are about removing those trade barriers that Europe is not going to bend on. That's the reality. He's not doing it to save American children's lives. If it happens as an ancillary effect, cool. But this is about trade. This is about the fact that Donald Trump's trade policy and this trade war that he started has to give in certain areas. But he can't be seen to give directly. He can't be seen to be making so we can sell into Europe. Can you imagine Donald Trump coming out and saying, we're going to sell into Europe. They've agreed to open our markets, but we're going to remove certain additives and colors from our food so that they will accept them. Not for our own health and safety, but so that we can sell Kraft or Swanson frozen dinners in deference to Tucker Carlson to Europe. First of all, I think most Americans on our side of the aisle would sort of shrug and go, it's about time their food standards are better than ours. But maggots would freak out. This is going to cost. This is going to raise the price of our food, and my Fruit Loops are going to look all dull now. They're not going to look exciting and bright nuclear green. That's what this is about. This is about selling to Europe and making concessions in these trade talks, and they are happening everywhere, by the way. There are concessions in these trade talks that are occurring in a bunch of different areas under the guise of, policy changes. And they have nothing to do with the care for the safety and well-being of the citizenry of the United States. It has everything to do with selling our goods to other countries in an attempt to make up for lost revenue that will be lost either by his tax cuts or the fact that or to lower tariffs because in his tariff war, so he can give them something without saying he did. There you go. It's obvious if you listen to any of the committee hearings, and they do it all the time. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Phil is having tech issues, but he will be here as fast as he can.
Hurry home, Phil.
Quick break, 30 seconds. Unless you need more time.
No, I think we're okay. I'm going to play that. Good. Yeah, I'm going to play that Bannon clip.
Bannon.
Stand by.
Thank you.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I thought there was going to be like a new one every break. I was so excited.
You want more, Hal? We'll give you more. Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. Hoo-yah!
So the fight between Elon Musk and Donald Trump continues after it ebbed for a little bit. There are real material things that are occurring. The U.S. Air Force has abandoned plans to test a hypersonic rocket cargo deliveries from a remote Pacific island using Elon Musk's SpaceX. So Trump is canceling little projects in this tit for tat, fight back and forth. Let's see. The New York Times says this is SpaceX. Well, I say his response to was it to make up for this heinous crime, I will refrain from having an omelet for a week.
Okay.
Yeah. Because what he's saying is that there are other markets where he can make up for this loss of money in all of these fronts, and there is a real conversation right now. Immigration in the United States and the overreach of ICE and the overreach of Customs and Border Patrol. And I would like to remind everyone that last year the Democrats and Joe Biden attempted to pass an immigration bill that was bipartisan, and everyone touted as largely conservative when it was just essentially it was just a baseline bill. Because I understand there are no partisan issues. There are only partisan solutions. Whether you believe a problem has to be solved or not can often be that, but the existence of it is not a matter of debate. Gravity is not, a partisan solution. But saying we should build rockets and go to other planets because humans should survive beyond this planet if it was ever hit by an asteroid, and no, God wants us to stay here and wait for him to come back because if nobody's here, like he's a lost kid in a mall, how will he know where to go? That would be the partisan split about gravity. Does that make sense? Okay. In all of these circumstances, there are these issues where you can come to a consensus. Look, there are these partisan solutions over here and partisan solutions over here, but there are ways to handle this that aren't partisan. We all agree there needs to be certain elements, right? Scanners that can check for chemical and biological weapons and things like fentanyl or nuclear waste or, a dirty bomb or something like that. Those kind of sensors on trucks coming into the country. Most people can agree that's a good idea. And the funding for that shouldn't really be a fight between parties. It is sometimes because of what the others want to attach to it, that if we each want to get this thing we've agreed is normal, I also want this, if you want my vote, and that kind of stuff. And these things tend to stack. And that's where you get Trump having to do this large budget-busting bill, because if he had to do 12 bills, there would be so much dissension in his party, they wouldn't be able to get, but 3 of them passed. Meanwhile, Steve Bannon, who you'll recall Donald Trump pardoned for stealing from maggots. Remember, he set up a fake build-the-wall company, took donations, and the money never went to building a section of wall, and he kept it. He was arrested on an alleged Chinese dissident's yacht. And that guy, obviously... Can we just understand that one of the best ways to be like an overt spy or to manipulate the populace of something is to pretend to be jingoistic for the country that you're in? That if we learned anything from shows like The Americans and others is that you put on a big performance that you're patriotic. That's the best way to cover. Think of it as Lindsey Grahaming your patriotism. Your real circumstance. You're a confirmed bachelor, but because you're forever married to Mother Russia. In this particular instance, though, you've got Elon Musk and Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon trying to work his way back into Trump world after he was basically driven to the edges by Elon Musk being in there. This fight over who's going to whisper in Trump's increasingly dull ears. This is where it's gone. So the threat was, if this bill passes, which it did, Elon Musk is going to start his own party called the America Party, or the American Party, and that it's going to be for the 80% that don't like Democrats or Republicans, which is not the case at all. It'll actually be full of libertarians and rhinos and people who are mad at maggots for ruining the Republican Party, maybe, And it'll be more like Ross Perot's tug on Republican voters than it will be a bridge voting community. Because that whole Nazi salute ketamine thing is a little hard for most Democrats who actually care to shake. And especially when his cuts were, that he wanted more cuts to Medicaid, more cuts to Medicare, that he thinks everybody on it, anybody who gets upset about their loss of benefits is clearly a fraud, right? Which is, because that's who makes the most noise. Not somebody who's actually going to die. Nobody does that. No, that's not real, right? Okay, so that's the story. This is in my list of, did you think they were going to did either of these parties, did Steve Bannon and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and this crowd, did they think this was the conversation they were going to be having 6 months ago? Like, if they could look 6 months in the future and you ask them, what's next year going to be like? Did it sound like this?
Elmo the Mook, formerly known as Elon Musk, Elmo the Mook, he's today in another smear, and this only a foreigner could do this. Think about it. He's
a foreigner. Jesus.
He's got up on Twitter right now a poll about starting an America party. A non-American starting an America party. No, brother, you're not an American. You're a South African. And if we take enough time and prove the facts of that, you should be deported because it's a crime of what you did, among many.
Yeah, so the idea is that Elon Musk came over here, went to school, and then he worked without a visa for a while until he became a citizen. And therefore, he violated the law, and retroactively, they should be able to remove his citizenship. That's Bannon's
Elmo
push.
the Mook? What's a Mook?
Like a hanger-on. Stephanie Miller used to call her, everybody who worked on the show, the mooks, right? It was just the peripheral characters. It's a derisive term, but it's also could be said in jest. But it doesn't ultimately matter. The whole Elmo the Mook thing actually is more of a Democratic slam on him. Calling him Elmo is something our dear friend Tara Dublin was doing last year, right? Like this. They are borrowing attacks from Democrats that that fit soundly in the "I told you so" cubbyhole, and in this particular case, like, will it have any impact on it? Is Bannon going to talk Trump into getting, having, again, I don't think he can on the material legal level at all, but even making an attempt at doing it, knowing the fact that because of Doge and how Doge was structured and how Elon Musk was given access to everything as soon as he got in there, the unspoken thing, and I don't know why people don't bring this up more often to Trump and around him. I think reporters, you guys gotta, if you've got access, if you're asking Caroline Leavitt and you want a question to get back to Trump, here's what you have to ask. Does it bother Donald Trump, considering the issues he's having and the accusations leveled at him by Elon Musk about being in the Epstein list and all these kind of things? Does it bother the president that he is surrounded in all his departments by Doge operatives that either work in Doge now or have been placed in all of these organizations with the concerns about them having access to information, not just on the American people, but on the president himself or his allies or his donors? Does that not concern? They're everywhere. He participated for 2 months in inserting these Doge guys, these Doge bags, in all these different departments. And they're still there. And so whatever he breaks off from Elon Musk, these guys are all looking for a job with Elon Musk when they leave. They're not going into government. Most of them are, pseudo-libertarian morons who don't think government should exist, or are technocrats who believe that there should be an AI running the state, and eventually they'll get there. But in the meantime, they'll just use the system as it is to leverage whatever power they need, right? When a reporter needs to do that, a reporter needs to ask Caroline Leavitt on behalf of the president or the president himself, does it bother you that that Elon Musk has operatives in every department around you that are loyal to him? Maybe more loyal to him than they are to you.
Yeah.
It's true. And I got to tell you, if you or I were in this same situation, strategically speaking, yes, and you had a fallout with someone like Elon Musk, who has the resources that he has and the money that he has, and knowing, from the sublime to the ridiculous, how cheap it is to create a gadfly bot army to ruin someone's political prospects, which is really easy and cheap, and he's got the access and the ability and the programmers that can do it, to how cheap an assassination plot is, ultimately, when you boil down to what it costs. That whole spectrum should make you very nervous if you're someone like Donald Trump, especially as guilty as he is. And the accusations put forward about the Epstein files that Musk did meant that he seriously dove into this. This wasn't just, he actually is a fraud. I've got the records. It was way worse. Right? So from a strategic standpoint, if I was in a situation like that and somebody that was close to me, that was, an ally who had access to all this stuff and was suddenly turning against you on that level, true or not, let's say you're innocent of what he said about those things, but he can fabricate stuff, deep fakes, whatever you want, and he has access to so much stuff. The first thing you would do is start pairing out his people and replacing him with yours. That'd be the first thing you would do. Anybody who came in with Doge that was put in one of the organizations, the Pentagon, the Treasury, whatever it is, they'd immediately lose their job and be replaced by somebody who can do the job, who's more in line with you, or at least a normal, just move somebody up who's in the organization who knows how to do their job into that position. Because in most cases, these guys don't. And either he's too stupid and aware that that's a real threat, or he can't, which is be the more concerning thing, that is a real threat. And that's actually his bigger concern, that if he starts pulling these people, then Elon Musk will really start letting him have it. Still haven't seen those Epstein files, Pam Bondi. Still haven't seen those Epstein files, Kash Patel. I remember 3 weeks ago, there was going to be a video out showing the block, the cell block where Epstein was, and that he was dead when they took him out and all that kind of stuff, which he wasn't. He was being resuscitated when they took him away. So who says he's dead at all? Like, beyond did he kill himself? Maybe he's not even dead. It's easier to pay somebody to pretend you're dead. I felt his neck and he was dead. Like, prove me wrong.
Yeah, I just saw Winter Soldier, and
there you go.
Fury did the same thing.
That's right. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I'm going to try to circle everything back to Winter Soldier today.
I'm fine with that, especially the soundtrack, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And that scree noise.
Oh yeah, it's horrible. So scary. On your left.
Mm-hmm. Come on. Oh, that's how it is.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say? Should I call a medic?
Yeah. Can't run everywhere. I guess not. Anybody know where the Smithsonian is? I'm here to pick up a fossil. Very funny. Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah, I'm gonna. We'll talk about Ukraine on the way back in case Phil can pop in, but I do want to address some of this stuff.
Yeah,
because a lot happened. Welcome back to the show. Philip Bittner is trying to join us. He is safe and fine, I want you to know, but he is just technical issues there. He is, they are under constant barrage. Yeah, so it's not surprising that the internet might be spotty or difficult at times. It may even be a strategic normal thing strategically normal thing that they have to do at certain times. I do want to say a couple of things about the Ukraine stuff. One of the primary ones being that, we're coming back at 30? Sorry? I heard us come back.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Are we back already? I heard us come back.
Sorry.
Oh, it's a misfire of the audio?
Yeah, sorry. I thought you guys went to break. I was just like, oh, whoops.
Oh, we did go to break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
My bad. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm going to hold still, and we'll be back in 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
Don't say any good stuff.
Not even 10. All right, about to be back.
There we go. Thank you.
All right, start swearing real fast.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We're still waiting to see if we can get Philip hooked up from Ukraine today. He is well and alive for those that are concerned. It's a technical issue getting him hooked in. We may be able to hopefully we'll get him by the happy ending for this. And next week, by the way, Johnny Million and I will be at Max and Benny's in Northbrook for a live version of the show. Very excited to do that. Tickets are available through the CPT website and through Brown Paper Tickets. So you guys remember, it's been so long, Johnny Million. You remember what Trump said about being able to end the war in Ukraine? I've been racking my brain trying to think about the time scale, sarcasm being what it is.
How many calls?
One in an hour.
Okay,
and he knew exactly what he would say to both sides, and it would end immediately because he's smart and we have stupid people running things. I'm paraphrasing, but if you leave the pot on the stove till all the liquid is cooked out of it, that would be the dreck that would be still in the bowl when you came back to the house and went, "What's that smell?" Okay. Well, we've got a new quote. Politico is reporting they interviewed him. I don't know if this was kind of an on the run question or a sit down. He said he spoke with Putin and Zelensky earlier this week. President Donald Trump said Friday that he was unsure if he'd be able to end Russia's war against Ukraine, a far cry from his promise to swiftly put a stop to the conflict that he had made on the campaign trail. "I don't know. I can't tell you whether or not it's going to happen," he told reporters on Air Force One when asked whether or not he's confident he'll be able to end the fighting. When asked if ending the war was a priority, there's Phil in the background. I think he's coming in. I thought, no, maybe not. Maybe. Oh, he's trying. He goes, "Yes, I'd like to see it happen." In an interview with Time Magazine, he, of course, said that he was exaggerating and joking, depending on when, you asked him about them. And then when he talks about Ukraine these days, he's talking about we secured peace deals between the DRC and Rwanda, which, by the way, aren't at war. There are rebel forces from Rwanda that go back and forth across the border, and we want rare earth minerals from the DRC. So the idea is that we're going to give them security guarantees against the Rwandan rebels. And the Rwandans said, well, they're not us. They're rebel groups against the DRC that are hiding in our territory. So whatever, dude. That was the extent of it. In the meantime, though, he just says, "I don't know. I can't tell you whether it's going to happen or not." Now, had he said that honestly last year, the entire conversation about him as a presidential candidate would have been different. Because he promised, something that was impossible, and a bunch of people bought it. And it created this false narrative that he was going to be the peace president. The peace president who referred to the Palestinians as a cancer, as a problem that you have to solve quickly, and joked about Trump Plaza Gaza, right? And still does. Now that he's president of the United States, that statement he made on the campaign trail that should have been a warning. By the way, has he called off Israeli strikes? Has he lessened the bombs and the size of the bombs they could use on those areas? Not at all. So, all right. That said, one of the other stories that we heard, and he reiterated it yesterday, Afghanistan is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to the United States. And I've made the case that the most embarrassing day in Afghanistan is the first day after you realize there is no winnable war there and there's not a necessity for us to be there at all because it's not our country and it's not up to us and we can't create a government for them. So that day, the next morning is the most embarrassing day ever because it's from that point on, and every day after that till you leave gets worse, right? That's how that works. For every day you double down on a stupid mistake or an unwinnable war or any of those things, that's the worst day ever. Until you get to the day you leave. And then that becomes the least embarrassing thing that has happened since the day before you realize this was a lost cause. Yeah, 10 years ago, we knew we had to get out of there. And Biden told Obama this. It is well documented. Obama admits to it. Biden was against the surge. And one of the things that Trump would say about Biden was, ask him, he's been wrong about every decision he's ever made. Well, that's from somebody who was for the surge, which was a mistake, and dragged the Afghan war on another 6 years. Biden came in with Obama and said, look, I've been around for a long time. Here's what's going to happen. The generals, they're just doing their job. And they're convinced that if they just had a little more resources, they'd be able to do that job in a period of time. So they're always going to ask for 3, 9, 18 more months. Whatever it is, they're going to ask to extend. Just this little bit. Just get us over this hump, and then we can all leave. And it'll be awesome. And the politicians that are for it will back them because they like the spending, or they like how it makes them look tough against terrorism or whatever. And it's no matter when you leave, it's going to be ugly, but it won't be uglier than staying. And he told Obama this. He was like, I'm against the surge. It's up to you, but they're going to tell you this story. They're going to tell you we just need 18 more months and it'll all be great. And if we do leave, all the true things, women and girls will be treated very badly by the Taliban, all this kind of stuff. When Biden got in, and by the way, Trump ran on getting us out of Afghanistan. If you'll recall, very much like he said he could solve the Ukraine-Russia war in a phone call. He was like, why are we in Afghanistan? Iraq was a mistake. I'm going to get us out of those things. Well, we were already technically out of Iraq. He didn't move the green zone. He kept that. That's there. Like, we didn't really change that. But he didn't get us out of Afghanistan. He punted. He scheduled the exit after into his next term, and he now says he wouldn't have left at all, that we would have kept Bagram, and you can't stay and leave at the same time. You can't stay and leave, right? You can't stay and leave. And so that was always a lie. It was always a lie that he was going to get us out of Afghanistan. In many ways, the reason he says it's embarrassing is because he was going to keep Bagram for its tactical use in this, in this, military hegemony idea, this macho expansion of the military that he's been talking about. Having Bagram would be part of that. But you sell this, hippie fever dream that I'm actually the peace president, which is exactly what the Antichrist would say. And don't worry, I don't think Trump is the Antichrist. He's too stupid and he smells too bad. Obviously, the Antichrist would have his act together and would be probably a very sharp metrosexual, looking guy who just smells terrific. I just assume that, because if you're going to try and intoxicate the entire world, you're going to have to. Maybe he smells different to everybody. Maybe that's interesting. I never really thought about that till just now. But anyways, so the idea was, though, is that Afghanistan, getting out of Afghanistan, and how we did it, we were going to get out with beauty and strength and what have you. But it was so embarrassing, and so weak, and so pathetic that Putin thought this is the time to go into Ukraine. America is led by a weak guy. Now, let me tell you something. That was not the calculation by Russia at all. Russia has a demographic problem, it has a financial problem, and it has a window of about the next, at that point, about 8 years, when it would not be able to carry out this war in any way, except as, I guess, a large techno-drone war, which is what this is turning into on the Ukrainian side, ironically. But if you're going to do the Russian meat wave thing, you're running out of young men. And over the next 8 years, that number is going to drop off precipitously. It was already bad. They were already running out of time. So no matter what happened, this is when you got to go. If they were going to claim any of Ukraine, much less all of it, it had to be now. It had to be as soon as possible. And they assumed, I think, that Trump was going to win. And when he didn't, they had to punt to the next year during the same fighting window. They had to wait till the next year came around. And that's when it happened. But let's take for granted that what Trump says about Putin is true, that Putin saw us getting out of Afghanistan, where we were stopping, we stopped throwing good money after bad, wasting billions of dollars, freed up tons of military equipment that we got back, stopped using, or stopped firing. All the bullets we wouldn't be shooting, all the artillery shells we wouldn't be shooting, all the mechanics and gear and stuff we could move to other places. We now have access to all that stuff back. And nowhere to park it, by the way. It's still over there. It's not like we're going to bring it all back to the United States. And when Trump says, I would have taken every nut, every bolt, every screw out of that area, that's marching orders from Russia. That's what he would have wanted. Get all that gear out of the continent. Get it all the way back to the United States, because bringing it back here would be way harder. But what had happened was, because we got out of Afghanistan, when we did, a lot of that stuff was nearby. It was at military bases that we have in the area. It was at military bases in the Middle East. It was military bases that we have in Europe and in Germany. And it was fairly easy to move a bunch of that stuff that was being used in Afghanistan, the stuff that we did reclaim that was still worthwhile, to Ukraine. Strategically, tactically, one of the dumbest decisions by a leader militarily in human history. If Putin saw us getting out of Afghanistan as a weakness, he was incredibly mistaken. And it's not even a debate, because they have lost over 1 million soldiers to gain about 9 football fields worth of territory that they didn't already have. Area, by the way, that they could have rented. They could have removed their soldiers from the Donbass and from Crimea, struck a legitimate trade deal with Ukraine, had ongoing back and forth, and over the course, a couple of decades, probably leaned them more towards their way of life if they were a good partner during that. If they were a better partner than Europe was, this was the thinking, that they could have gained control of the country like they had under Yanukovych again, over time, without the expenditure of 1 million dead and the loss of their entire demographic population, their future demographic, baby makers, burning up their baby makers one after the other. So, meanwhile, well, at least their industries aren't doing poorly. At least they're still making money hand over fist with oil, right? At least, well, not exactly, kids. There is, because of the glut of oil that is happening, because OPEC Plus, in an attempt to help Donald Trump get elected, held back oil production until all of the minor partners in OPEC Plus cried uncle and had to start releasing more oil. They all rebelled against Saudi Arabia and Russia and the bigger partners and said, look, we got to sell this stuff. We got nothing else. You guys might have Mecca and Medina as a big tourist trap, and you can make money because every Muslim in the world has to make the Hajj and come there. Or you might be able to scare certain people, or Russia's proximity to China might make them able to sell, oil under the table directly to them. But we got to sell to the rest of the world. We can't wait. And so they started easing well before and then once that started happening, it's just started to stack. And I said last year, there's going to be an oil glut this fall, because there is. And it's largely because of the collapse of production in China, the artificial growth that they had for a long time, never needed as much of that as they said they did. Never mind, the tariff wars and that kind of stuff, and shipping oil usage going down. But because of that overproduction, according to oilprice.com, Russia's discount oil no longer a bargain for India. The price gap that once made Russian Urals crude a go-to for Indian refiners is rapidly shrinking. Traders say the discount in Urals oil for August delivery to India has narrowed to just $1.70 to $2 per barrel below the dated Brent, the tightest spread since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. The discount is down $2 to $2.50 in July, well below the steep markdowns India enjoyed throughout 2023 and 2024. The reason: high demand from India and Turkey, reduced spot market availability, and falling Russian supply due to domestic refinery runs and upcoming maintenance at the Sakhalin 1 project. For Indian refiners, the math is shifting. Spot Urals is still cheaper than other grades, but the advantage is eroding, which means Brent is better for your machinery than the crude oil that they buy from Russia. And you're weighing, does this do damage to my gear and I have to rebuild my refineries sooner if I use this stuff versus that $2 difference? What's more important to me? And at some point, they're below $5 is a tipping point. They're already at that tipping point. And the availability of it and the need for oil is shrinking, no matter how much Trump tries to help the market by slowing EV advancements. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Quick break, 30 seconds. Unless you need more time.
No, I think we're okay.
Perfect.
I checked on Phil, but so I don't know, where's this other one? Where are we? Is it this guy right here? Hold on. Yeah, this is the other thing. I don't know why this page uses like a light gray text against a white background. I don't know. They must
stand by.
Thank you. Something in their website must think it's on a.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Bling.
Hooray. And scene. Let's see.
Who's that little guy?
Okay, that's Matt the Maggoty Rat that showed up on there. He's a rat that voted for Donald Trump, and he helps us explain some of the reasoning. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just don't understand what it's because of Matt the Maggoty Rat that I understand. People on the radio don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but on my live stream you'll see him occasionally. He makes an appearance, but he helps explain what maggots are thinking in these situations. So yeah, Matt the Maggoty Rat. So one of the things I was showing online and line with, and again, Phil is just having tech issues. So he's okay.
Fine.
Yeah, he's fine. Don't worry. We'll have him back on my Wednesday show if he can't make it today, which it does look like he will, unless he rolls in at the last second and is like, hey, okay, bye.
It's a happy ending. I didn't have to talk to you guys.
The advance, yes, right. That was his happy ending, that he doesn't have to work with children this week. The article, I think this is from the Key Post, but there's a bunch of these, or Business Insider, actually. The armed forces of Ukraine are assembling combat robots like Lego. As a result, they are changing the rules of the game at the front. Ukraine is using ground robots in various ways for evacuating the wounded, laying mines, and it is using ground robots like Lego, combining them in different ways depending on the task, from evacuation to attacks, a Ukrainian robot operator said. Alexander Yabchenko, head of the robotic systems department at the Da Vinci Wolves Battalion, gotta love that, told him that his unit does not have different types of robots. Instead, they are equipped and assembled for specific needs. We have talked many times about the future of robotics and war and all that kind of stuff, and the lines are being drawn by the Ukrainians right now. And the irony is that Russia, if they were able to adapt and join in this thing and create their own, other than just buying Shahed drones from Iran and flying them over and bombing apartment buildings, if they were able to, use their innovative stuff and start their own kind of, like space race like they did with us in the 60s, they could really make a dent in this situation. The problem is, and this also points to a problem that Trump has and maggots have in general, which is that if Russia does this, it's seen as weakness. They should have enough people and a big enough army to beat this little upstart. So the idea that they would have to start using little, land drones and stuff like that would be seen as a sign of weakness and the wrong direction for a military as grand as theirs. So they can't. They just cannot. They should innovate in this way to protect themselves and their stuff, even if it was just interior to the country. Because along with all the stories about the drone hits that Ukraine is doing, in the far east of Russia, you've got Ukrainians hitting a main gas pipeline supplying the Russian military facilities was blown up in the eastern part of Russia. A water pipeline that provides drinking water to military garrisons was also destroyed by the explosion. A main gas pipeline exploded near Vladivostok. Intelligence sources told the UNIAN in the far east of the aggressor country, as a result of an explosion and subsequent fire, branches of the Vladivostok gas pipeline, which runs along the coast of the Sea of Japan, were destroyed. It was also reported the gas pipeline in particular provides a gas supply to a number of military facilities for the Russian armed forces located along the coast of the Sea of Japan, the ones that are farthest away from the front line. And this is how, because of Russia's size, one of the things it's taken advantage of is its ability to hide stuff so far back the other side can't hit it. Well, that seems to be over. They are literally striking stuff that is on the Sea of Japan.
It's really far east.
Yeah, it's very far. Yeah, I've even often heard of that area of the world referred to, if I'm not mistaken, as the Far East. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever. That's one of the colloquial names for it. There, Johnny.
When does it become west again?
It's a big question. It's kind of like. Up and down on the earth, where we look at north and south as up and down because everything's relative, till your toilet starts spinning backwards, you crazy Australians. And that said, also in the middle of all this, the editorial board of the New York Post, which is Trump's favorite newspaper, has asked him to commit to arming Ukraine. Mr. President, we know that you understand that the main obstacle to peace in Ukraine is Russian aggression. You said you were disappointed in your conversation with Vladimir Putin and that you didn't think he means to stop. Putin has again insisted that he is unwilling to commit to a ceasefire until the root causes of the conflict are addressed. For Putin, the root cause is the existence of Ukraine. After your call, he launched the largest drone and missile strike of the entire war, killing at least one person. By the way, Trump referenced this point on the tarmac afterwards, after this article had come out. So either someone related it to him, or he knows somebody from the Post, more than likely, who one of the owners or one of the his buddies who listens to it or likes the fact that they support him. So why, Mr. President, is your administration punishing Ukraine? The publication recalls that the Pentagon has suspended the supply of air defense equipment to Ukraine necessary to protect against Russian airstrikes. New York Post emphasizes that the belief that military aid to Ukraine somehow harms the United States and doesn't meet its interests is completely far from the truth. Marcia, thank you so much for the super chat. And thank you guys for the engagement today and just saying hello. If you're in the chat room on any site, give a thumbs up if you're watching the show and say hi. That kind of just being involved, just showing up in our chat room really does help the show across a myriad of fronts. Trump once called it. Yeah, that's right. Yes, well, a thumbs down helps too. Don't get me wrong. And I want to, send this message out to the maggots and trolls that are out there. I'm sure. And Johnny Million, you're doing a live stream after today's show on your playing guitar and doing some stuff. So yeah,
gonna play some guitar.
I'm gonna raid you after this on Twitch.
Yeah, you are.
But on whatever site, I want to say to all the maggots and trolls out there. Not only do I like that your eyeballs are here, because you could. The great thing about time is there are no refunds. And you could have been spending it someplace else doing something awful, and here we're impervious. You've got no power here. Now go away before someone drops a house on you too, right? But in the meantime, it also those eyeballs, that hate watching, still boosts my numbers in the algorithm. Mm-hmm. And when people write things, especially as mad as they get, what it tells the algorithm is this guy's engaging. And that's even better in terms of ad rev. So please feel free to gripe as much as you want. Just keep your racial epithets and your anti-gay epithets to a minimum. Try to use your big boy words as best you can.
That'll keep you in the chat.
Yeah, that'll keep you in the chat, right? Yeah, we don't want to have the have you bounced just for being a bigot. It's the specific languaging that we have a problem with. The rest of your bigotry is hilarious and pathetic. That said, it's awesome that they're around. I don't want you to leave, because you might go to another chat room where they're a little more sensitive. And I got to say, my chat room is completely impervious to the attacks by these folks. It's hilarious. By the way, and let's see. Yeah, Phil texted he had tech issues. Okay, so we will be seeing him middle of this week. All's well, insofar as we know. There have been, look, insofar as Trump and Ukraine goes, and how much time do I have? Okay, a couple of minutes. Insofar as Trump and Ukraine goes, whenever he says he can make progress, it's because Russia has strung him along, because Putin has told him, oh, maybe we can work something out, or he's bought some line from somewhere.
Yeah, like if Ukraine would just give up everything, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it could happen. That's all they have to do. But every time he says, I can't do anything about it, it's when Putin won't do anything, when Putin has become intransigent or won't help. Meaning he's never on Ukraine's side and never will be. Even if he accidentally has to be because the Senate makes him, which they're going to. And even if, because we're still carrying the stuff from the CR going forward, and as much as they can halt some of the stuff that's going to, going to Ukraine under the idea that there might be a ceasefire, so we have to pause these things. You've got that discretion. Once that fades, once there is not a ceasefire of any sort, that's he's got to release that stuff. That's the law. And it's the same thing that we ran through with the javelins. He tried to hold it as long as he could, but then they'd have to send this through. But ultimately, the reason he ever says there's nothing I can do, it's because Russia won't give him what he wants or won't take what is given. It has nothing to do with the Ukrainians and what they need or what will save their lives. He doesn't care. This is about him feathering his nest. This is everything he is doing is about the deals he is going to make after his presidency for both his family and his friends with the countries that we have conflict with. And if he can have a Trump Tower Tehran out of this, he would sell Israel or anybody else down the river to get it. And the sooner, and people are waking up to that inside maggotdom, but he's still gonna leave a lot of damage in his wake. That's it for this week. Thank you guys for joining us. Johnny Million, jump over and start doing your show, and I'm gonna raid you. And thank you, Chicago. And we'll see you guys next week at Max and Benny's. Get your tickets today.
Live and in person.
We'll see you there. It's gonna be very live and in person. It's very exciting. Okay, we'll see you then.
All right.
There you go, Johnny. All right, so I'm gonna hold on until Johnny gets up and running on Twitch. It might take him a moment. So I feel like we should, I didn't do, there we go. What was this little screen over here? It used to have, what did it have in it? I think it used to have, maybe it was supposed to have a window of, let's see, this is that guy right there. Yeah, that's the Twitch window of nonsense. I'll go to the chat room real quick. There you are, you lovely people. Yeah, thank you for the heartlandsignal.com. Thank you for that, Andrea. Can you put that link in the Discord for me real quick so I can cut and paste it? It's on my other computer and the email, but Hype Train, come on, you can get a Hype Train in there before Johnny gets up there, and then we can send you guys over there, right? That'd be a thing. We could do that. That'd be okay. Maybe. Also, maybe think about becoming a subscriber on Twitch if you're on there. I'm just throwing that out there. I know I don't bother anybody about that. We got great viewer numbers, but absolute shite numbers in terms of legal Riot Games is up right now. I was like, how are they? They've got 0 viewers. How is that possible? Or maybe they haven't started yet. Maybe that's what it is. Okay, I'm waiting for Johnny to jump on. Thank you. Term tracker. I don't think when you're a subscriber you should have to watch ads. I don't think you do on Twitch. I think that's how you avoid them, isn't it? Or do I have to turn it on subscriber only or something like that? I apologize for that. No ads for subs on Twitch. Yeah, that's what I thought. That makes total sense. Let me, real quick, while we're waiting for Johnny to get his thing up and running, look up, the link is just above. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, I see it. Thank you. Excellent. Boink. Yay. All right, excellent. Because I'm going to blue sky that right after 2 as well. In the meantime, let's see, Had a weird dream about you? There's no such thing as a weird dream about me. They're all like that. Thank you, Andrea. Hey. You like the gay song? I think it's pretty great. I was surprised how well it turned out. There was like 4 or 5 other ones, and they were, not great. So this is an improvement, right? Where is this? Let me bring this in. I want to play this, the response. Let's see. Thiel, where is it? Antichrist. This was the other thing that was driving people crazy. Yeah, Peter Thiel warns about the Antichrist while wearing. Okay, so this is where everybody thinks that Peter Thiel wants the Antichrist to be a thing or whatever. So check this out.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
Okay, hold for a second, if I may. If indeed there is Christ's return and there is an Antichrist, no one can do anything to stop it. I think that is the lesson of the Omen, but also it is clear that if that's a real thing, if it really did happen, it wouldn't matter which side of it, whether you were a willing participant or it's a prophecy. If the prophecy plays out, fuck you. You're not going to have a say in it. If you accidentally help bring it about, or whether you on purpose bring it about, it's going to be brought about by somebody. That's how this shit works. That's how prophecy works. The absurdity of it is that they're even talking in these terms.
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
No one who accidentally supports the coming of the Antichrist thinks that's what they're doing. Kind of the point. As a matter of fact, people who would hasten the Antichrist's demise and help right the world against him would technically be aware that the tools they have could be used and would therefore put them down. So stupid. This is what happens when stupid people have smart people money.
I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe, but
yeah, there's like Antichrist light. There's 0-calorie Antichrist, and there's sugar-free Antichrist.
Is this so preposterous?
The Antichrist is Splenda, I believe.
What I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted.
Right. That was literally Trump's sales pitch. Asshole. Peace and safety. I'm the peace candidate, and you will be safe. Your streets will be safe and safety safe. Right? That was it. We got to get all these criminals out of here because our streets aren't safe, and I'm going to make them safe again. We're going to make our cities safe again. Make America great again. It means peace and safety. What the fuck? Who is this guy? This is Peter Thiel. This was Elon Musk's partner in PayPal. He's a multi-billionaire. He's the guy who chose J.D. Vance to be Donald Trump's running mate. This is a human being with a tremendous amount of impact. and he's fucking dumb. He looks ill. No, he's one of these guys who's getting all these like treatments, and they all look shrink wrapped and unhealthy. But again, the concept of the Antichrist, and meanwhile, Peter Thiel asked about the Big Brother surveillance of the American dream. Thiel is the Antichrist. That's and by the way, no, he wouldn't. He would be one of the people who works alongside the Antichrist or what have you, but he wouldn't be the actual one because he's not charming enough to convince the world that he could stand in the temple and declare himself God. That's what Trump is supposed to do. Trump's part in this is to be the Antichrist so he can bring about, because here's the problem you have, that ultimately people who want Christ to return and people who want the Antichrist to prevail want the same thing. The Antichrist has to do all these things before Christ can come back. So you have to do all these terrible things to make, to try and call Jesus's bluff. And anybody who wants Jesus to come back needs the Antichrist to fulfill all the prophecies. Otherwise, Jesus can't come back yet. So he's got to wipe out tons of people. He's got to control the world. So you can vote for Donald Trump if you think he's the Antichrist, because that will bring about, will bring, us back to a point. Hold on, let me reload this, see if Johnny's up here yet. If you want Jesus to win, you've got to have, there he is. Excellent. I'm going to jump in here and start a raid. Oh, he's got the Schecter with the Ebo pickup on it, which is very cool, and I want one. Just saying. Might need to find a scrappy one on eBay. There we go. All right, I'm gonna raid. There we go. There are our Twitch people. I'll let you guys go. There's Johnny. You're very welcome, Johnny Million. We love you. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. Johnny Million's going to take us out, and I will see you guys. I am flying on Monday, so Monday shows will be at different times. I'm going to the East Coast time on Monday, and I won't leave till 9 a.m., so we're going to miss this window of things. So just know. All right, see you then, guys. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Andrea, I should have dropped that earlier so you know, but Monday, no guests in the morning. Thank you.
Where's the kaboom?
We're going to have it cauterized by Congress. They tried to hook up wire to copper, and it can't be done.